Do you love improv? Because I do. I'm Trent Dozier, host of I Love Improv with Trent Dozier. Join me live on twitch.tv/The Trident Network every second and fourth Wednesday, where I'm joined by a new guest each episode to talk about and do some improv. Can't catch it live? No worries. Each episode gets turned into a podcast for your listening pleasure. Podcast episodes are released the Wednesday following the live show. So watch live or listen later. But either way, if you love improv, make sure to check out I Love Improv with Trent Dozier, a part of the Trident Network.
So, how excited are you about getting an article in the Daily Examiner? Everyone's talking about it.
Well, Jack Downey just trashed it.
Of course he did. He's so jealous.
You think?
Come on. You snapped an amazing picture of your teacher's good side. Then you wrote a killer article about their secret romance, and it happened to run in a major New York newspaper. Think about it. The editor of the school paper has been upstaged by a member of his own staff. He's dying over this.
You are so right, Jen. Thanks.
What are friends for?
So true.
So true. Get a clue. It's so true.
Oh my God, Val, you're so smart. Hey, Val.
Hey, Al.
Welcome to the commentaries.
Thank you. Welcome to you and welcome to our listeners. Today, we're talking about Get a Clue.
Get a clue.
There's
nothing you can do. Wow. What a fun time this was.
Yeah, very silly, fun time. Lots of bright colors.
Oh, the 2000s fashion.
Oh my God. Spoiler alert. I
Say
own so many
magnifique.
things. So many things in this movie.
Love that.
Trey chic. Trey chic.
Trey chic.
I was not Trey chic. I owned like objects. Not the fashion. So I don't know. Let's just dive right in.
Yeah, we're
huh?
gonna dive.
Let's dive. Let's do it. All right. Get a Clue. It came out June 28th, 2002. So it's been a couple months since the last one.
Happy anniversary. Get a clue because it's June 28th. Just passed. So happy anniversary to Get a Clue.
Happy Get a Clue.
Happy Get a Clue.
Anyway, Get a Clue was directed by Maggie Greenwald, who hasn't done like a ton, but she directed a couple episodes of Pete and Pete, some episodes of The Backyardigans, and more recently, some episodes of Madam Secretary.
Cool.
Get a Clue was written by Alana Senko. She also did not have too much of a resume. She wrote some episodes of the Dragon Tales show.
Dragon Tales. That's all I got.
And a show called Just for Kicks, which I'd never heard of.
Just for kicks.
Keep going. I want to hear the whole thing.
Just for kicks, baby, you are just for kicks. Kicking here and kicking there, everybody, everywhere.
Very nice.
Excellent.
You. We got a big cast today, so here we go.
Okay.
Lindsay Lohan played none other than Lindsay Lohan played Alexandra or Lexy Gold. Lindsay Lohan is best known for her stint in the movie The Parent Trap, the newer version. I must point that out because I am probably the only person on earth who's seen the old version.
Yeah, you're the only person.
Like
the
literally.
only person on earth who's ever seen it.
Fun fact about the original Parent Trap, like the old one, that was a Disney Channel original film. So it was like the predecessor to Decons, which is kind of cool. Anyway, she was also in Mean Girls, Freaky Friday, Herbie Fully Loaded. She's also done a bunch of music videos. She hasn't done a whole lot more recently because she's kind of struggled with some things in her personal life. but she's around still.
Mm-hmm. You missed, very importantly, Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen.
Oh, yes. Sorry. And there's
Lindsay
Lohan's
Beach Club.
No. There's hold on. I have it written down here. Life Size, the one with Tyra Banks.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a bunch of cool fun facts on the IMDb for this movie. One of them is this was the last of 3 films that were under Lindsay Lohan's original contract with Disney, which required her to do Parent Trap, Life Size, and this movie.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
That's fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so she played Lexy. Brenda Song played Jen. You might remember Brenda from The Ultimate Christmas Present, which we watched a little while back. In the future, she will be in Stuck in the Suburbs. She was also in Phil of the Future, Wendy Wu, Homecoming Warrior, a bunch of Sweet Life iterations, and more recently, Station 19.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Bug Hall plays Jack Downey, and he's probably best known for Little Rascals.
Mm-hmm.
He plays Alfalfa in Little Rascals. At least that's definitely what I recognized him from. I think I still have the VHS of Little Rascals.
Wow.
Yeah. He was also in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. I think he was like a replacement for one of the kids, like one of the main kids. Also, I just love that this guy's name is Bug. Like, I want to know if that's short for something or if he was literally
Buggert.
Bug. Like, Bug sounds like a
Bugathan.
nickname from like the 50s. You know what I mean? Like, and now starring Bug Hall as Jack Downey. That sounds like a name in the 50s too.
That really
Also,
does. You did a great voice there, Val.
Oh, thank you.
You do a great 50s,
like 50s newscaster kind of. So Ian Gomez plays Mr. Walker. He is best known for My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Felicity, The Drew Carey Show, Cougar Town, Supergirl, and more recently The Morning Show and Physical. So he's a character actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but like those are the things where he
was a main character on Cougar Town, I think.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like these are like he's been in a ton of other stuff. These are just the things where he's had like recurring roles.
Mm-hmm. If you looked him up, you would know who he is. But I don't think he's not a name where you look at it and you're like, I know who that is. No offense to this man.
But he's very familiar. Like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, that guy. Uh-huh. Which is literally the definition of a character actor. Ali Mukadam played Gabe, their friend. And he's mostly been a voice actor.
Cool.
He was in Angela Anaconda, Redwall, an animated version of Anne of Green Gables, a show called Roly Poly Holy.
Yeah.
Franklin, Radio Free Roscoe. Wow. And then he was also in the movie Miss Sloane. So yeah, he's been working. Dan Lett played Lexi's dad, Frank Gold. He has not done a ton. He was a voice in Babar. I never know how to say that. It's a cartoon with an elephant.
Oh, uh-huh.
And he was in 2 different iterations of that 10 years apart. And then he was in X-Men Apocalypse and Molly's Game.
Cool.
Those were like the only things I really recognized.
Isn't Molly's Game also like Jessica Chastain or
it's
Bryce Dallas Howard
it's Amy
Adams,
I think. Or maybe it is Jessica. Oh God. Now I'm doing the thing where I mix them all up.
So many redheads, so little time.
Amanda Plummer played Miss Dawson, who's apparently her first name was Gertrude. I don't think we ever actually heard that out loud, but that makes sense. Gertrude. Yeah. She's their teacher as well. She has been in a bunch of stuff, but she was in LA Law, The Fisher King with Robin Williams, Pulp Fiction. She was a character in Hercules, which I thought you would appreciate. She was on Phineas and Ferb, and more recently, she's on the show Ratched.
The one thing that I knew her from, which was the only thing that I recognized her from, was Hunger Games 2. where she is Wirus. So she's the one who's like the older lady who goes TikTok, TikTok, TikTok.
Yeah.
And I recently rewatched those when I had the old Cove in April. So I did recognize her.
Nice. Charles Shaughnessy makes his triumphant return as Detective Charles Meany. There were a lot of on-the-nose names in this movie.
Yeah.
You might remember him from Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, and where he was said vampire, and The Nanny, which is what he's absolutely most famous for. But he was also on Mad Men, and he is currently, or at least recently, has been on Days of Our Lives for like a lot of episodes. Kim Roberts played Mrs. Stern, one of their other teachers. She's been in, she was in Cheetah Girls, Jump In, Degrassi, The Next Generation, Zombies, a show called Baroness Von Sketch Show, which sounded fun. And then she's a voice on Paw Patrol. Those first 4 or 5 that I listed are all Disney properties, and she plays a teacher in every single one of them.
Nice. When you've got the look, you've got the look.
Yep. And then like the rest of them like haven't really been in much, but like Eric Fink played Mr. Goldblum, another one of the teachers, or maybe the principal, I can't remember. Jennifer Pisana played the little sister Taylor. She stopped acting in 2007. Yeah. So that is the cast. The synopsis is as follows. Lexy is a spoilt rich kid who loves to get the best stories for her school's gossip column, but a pic she publishes of her teachers triggers a strange course of events, and one of the teachers goes missing. With her friend Jack, she decides to investigate and finds herself caught in a web of intrigue. It's an explosive parcel of action and adventure. What?
Okay, weird to say those words about a decom, but okay.
Also, like, it's not, like, there's no action or adventure in this movie. Like, there's a lot going on.
They venture to Brooklyn.
Okay. Yeah, they ride the subway. That is literally the most adventurous that there is.
And we don't even see them on the subway.
Right.
They were also like, we couldn't get the rights to ride the subway.
Right. We don't have the crew for that.
Yeah.
Well, also they were in Toronto, not New York. So they probably couldn't recreate it. And then also it's like some of the other stuff is, I get why they say it's a gossip column because everyone kind of flippantly calls it a gossip column, but she writes an advice column. Like she does like a Dear Abby style column. I don't understand like the gossip column insult thing that keeps happening. And it's in this, even in the synopsis. Mm-hmm. And then of course the other thing is like Jack is not her friend.
Yeah, he's definitely not.
He doesn't like her, or at least judges her. And he is the editor of her newspaper that she writes that advice column for. So those are the things that are inaccurate about that synopsis. A couple other fun facts. There is a song that is playing when at the beginning of the movie when Lexy and Jen are showing each other their outfits. Mm-hmm. And apparently that song was later used in Hannah Montana.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Selena Gomez sang it in Hannah Montana, I guess.
Cool.
And then the band that sung the song Get a Clue was originally called Prozzak, spelled Prozzak, but because they were going to be on Disney, they actually changed the name of their band to Simon and Milo so that they didn't reference drugs.
Wow.
In their band name. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Disney was like, ee.
Yeah. And then apparently they reshot the end of the movie to change who the villain was.
What?
Yeah. So like we can talk more about this in detail later, but like the fact that they reshot a decom to me is like wild.
Oh, I'm interested to hear who originally was.
Yeah, we'll talk about it during Spoiler City.
Okay.
Okay. That's all the business. Al, what were your first impressions?
Thanks, Val. I liked this movie. I thought it was fun. I thought the acting was great. I wasn't like stumped by the outcome, but had a few like ohs along the way. I love a mystery. I love he's just not into you, that moment where everyone kind of comes together and has like all of these things, which is not the same here, but kind of similar. So I had a lot of fun. I'm going to give this one a 7.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Sorry, I burped during that.
I didn't hear it.
Okay, great. Well, everyone else will. Rate my burp. Okay, Val. What are your first impressions?
I liked this movie. I probably only saw it like one time when it came out. So it was like fresh for me again. Here's what I really liked. I really liked Lindsay Lohan's acting and also the character of Lexy.
Was both incredible in this movie.
She's so like, you can just tell like how much better of an actor she is than like everyone else around her. It's really funny. But yeah, she's great. And like the character of Lexy is great too, because like she is sort of presented at the beginning as being very like vain and out of touch because she's like very wealthy. Like her dad is like the editor in chief of the New York Times or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he's like they're very rich. And they could have made that very one-dimensional, but instead she's actually very like empathetic and very perceptive and
very
caring.
willing to learn too.
Right. Very like open-minded, like just she's a very good person. And like I really appreciate that because like no one had to like teach her to be a good person. Like maybe they had to push her to have different experiences.
Yeah.
But like she didn't have to learn to not be a selfish piece of crap.
Right.
Which I liked about this because what it actually turns out is that Jack, who's the one who's like at school on scholarship and all that stuff, he's the one who's judgmental. He's the one who like prejudges her and assumes things about her. Yeah. And I like that as like a twist on sort of what would have been the easier path.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably like my favorite part. I think that like honestly, the whole like mystery to me was kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really care. Like I thought like the funniest parts to me were like the teacher, the woman teacher, like she was just so weird. And like I loved her energy. Anytime she was on screen, I was just like, things are about to be weird. And I liked when like all the kids were interacting and I liked when the two sisters were interacting. So for me, the movie was most fun when it was doing that. And then the one thing that really, really bothered me, and it's hard to tell if this is an acting issue or if it was an editing issue, but I thought that Bug, the guy who plays Jack, his reactions were so delayed. And like, it was hard for me to tell if this is just, you know, this was the first line, you know, and like they just edited like they didn't shave it enough, you know, to like be like a quick reaction. But it just felt like, okay, now I'm going to react every single time he said anything. And like, it was for me very distracting. So that was like the one thing. And like, I want to like him. Yeah. And so like, I was kind of like, ugh. But everything else I enjoyed.
Good.
So yeah, overall liked.
Good. Yeah, I thought it was fun.
Did you have any favorite quotes or moments?
I only had a few. The only good thing about being in mourning is that black is always in.
I wrote that one too.
Love that line. I wrote that I love Lindsay Lohan so much just because like she's just so great. And it makes me sad that she like went through over the last however long what she went through, because through Mean Girls, I mean, she was so good. And I know it's being a child actor and it's not having the right outlet and feeling very isolated and then kind of growing up in that. Even you look at Demi Lovato and Macaulay Culkin and all of these child stars kind of really go through it. And it makes me sad that she went through that because she really was so good. And I am hopeful that she at some point will get back into acting.
Yeah.
I think she's getting married soon.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I think she's kind of moving back around.
Good.
That was an aside. He's tall and mysterious, just your type. She was like, I don't have a type. And I'm like, he's my type. I decided that dad in this movie is cool dad.
Okay.
I didn't think he was hot, but he was definitely cool dad. And I was expecting him cool to not understand a lot, but he was really cool.
That's the thing. Like everyone who you would expect to be like kind of a piece of crap is actually really great.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I've never met your dad, but I feel like he kind of had your dad like vibes. of like,
Yeah.
where I'm going to come to you and be kind of like down to earth, but also like talk to you about important things. And
Right.
that was what I imagined your dad was like.
Yeah. Yeah. Except my dad talked about like Microsoft Excel rather than like journalism.
I love how vague this quote was of the big game is tonight. Traffic is going to be bumper to bumper. Just the vagueness of the big game. Forgive me for hosing you down like this, but I gotta go. That was just so random. And the scene just made it seem like this woman was going to start melting.
It was so funny, her face.
And this is a spoiler for Bingo. But she says, get a clue, Jack. And I love it. I love it. My favorite moment of the movie was this never happens again. But there was a small montage toward the beginning of the movie where a frozen picture of Lindsay Lohan is like, and then just completely fades. Never happens again. No other frozen fading pictures. But I was like, that is direction right there.
Oh my God.
Val, do you have any favorite quotes or moments?
Yes. So I definitely wrote that black line about black clothes. News of Mr. Walker's bizarre disappearance spread faster than the word of a Barney's warehouse sale. I liked the like advice that her dad said. You'd be surprised what hard work, imagination, and a little luck can bring you. I like that.
That's a Walt Disney quote.
Yeah. It's at one point, someone says Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
For no reason. And I'm like, why is the Lion King referenced in every single one
Truly.
of these decoms? And then I think, there's one point where this old lady goes, get me a cold one, Garson.
Garson.
I thought, so like most of this movie, like the things that sort of tickled me were just like how many items I owned.
When they panned through her room, I was like,
I was like pausing it every 5 seconds, just like, yep, had that. And I also just wanted to point out that the first time that we see Charles Shaughnessy's character in this movie, he is a reflection in a mirror, which I thought was very fun because the last movie he was in, he was a vampire. And the whole thing was that they figured out that he was a vampire because he did not have a reflection in a mirror.
Good Easter egg.
Yeah, that was it for me. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we hop on into Spoiler City?
Nah.
Okay. Well, I have gone to Barney's and gone into the changing room and taken off every piece of clothes that I was wearing, and that's where it ends.
I don't even need to intro it any other way. Welcome to Spoiler City. Our tops are off. You heard it.
We said we were going to get full nude for this one because we didn't take our tops off last time.
Oh, yeah. Full nude in the Barney's dressing room. Welcome to Spoiler City, where I, Al, tell the synopsis. All right. We open up on New York. A beautiful intro. We like, and the song that we're getting, Gonna Clown, there's nothing you can do. Great intro. This movie, solid intro. And in the beginning, we see Lexy is in bed and she wakes up for school and she puts on a headset where she Skypes, basically they invented Skype, Brenda's song about their outfits for the day. So we can see that they are very fashion forward. We see breakfast in the morning with her family. Mom is leaving for a trip. Dad writes for the New York Times, and she doesn't really get along with her sister very much. They don't look like sisters at all. You know, sometimes like you got kids who look alike. These sisters are like, they cast two completely different people. Weird. But then Lexi wrote an article about two of her teachers, and it was published in the Daily Examiner, which is Dad's competition newspaper. And the Daily Examiner is just also a local newspaper. And the article was about how two of her teachers are seeing each other on the side and no one knows. And then we get to school and we see the first teacher is Mr. Walker, and Miss Stern, who is basically like the dean of the school, is mad at Mr. Walker about the article. We don't know why. And everyone else is super supportive. Her friends are supportive, but the one person who's not is Bug Hall. His name is Jack. And he's so confused on how he got the picture. And her sister, what I didn't mention, is very like spy forward, lots of gadgets, lots of technology. And she had borrowed some kind of camera from her sister and got the picture. Now we're sitting in class and it's career week, and we have a foreshadowing moment of the person who's there for career week is the CIA lady, which I was like, if she's working for the CIA, she would not be here talking about working for the CIA.
Well, she says that like she was in the field for 10 years, but she's been working for the CIA for 12. So presumably she's like no longer like in a clandestine position.
Still spooky. And then we get to newspaper club where they talk about the article, and she and Bug Hall are fighting because he wouldn't post the article in the school newspaper, which is why she sent it to the Daily Inquirer. I mean, good for her for being a, 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid and getting your article published. Then she walks in on Walker, Mr. Walker and Miss Dawson. So those are the two teachers who are having the like secret affair, even though it's not an affair, but kind of, I guess.
They're just dating.
And she walks in on them and he says, I never meant to hurt you, and he doesn't love her. And then she said, one of us has to leave. And so they're basically breaking up. And of course, she walks in on them, in the stairwell having this. Then that night, Dad talks to Lexi, gives her advice about being a good investigative journalist and how you're kind of like a detective in a way. And then we get to the next morning and we see a car getting pulled out of a lake, and we're like, whose car is this? Then on Jack, aka Bug Hall, his way to school, there's an article at the newsstand that says a teacher is missing, and we realize Mr. Walker is missing, and it was his car and he hasn't been found. And then Lexi has another conversation with her dad and says that it's so weird that the day after my article runs, he disappeared. And Miss Dawson is acting really weird about the whole thing. And then the next career guy is a taxidermist. Not important to the storyline, but I wrote it down anyway. Lexi gets called out of class, and there is a detective there with a very long, stringy mustache, which typically would be my type, but he was not.
No.
And she tells the detective what Miss Dawson said of one of us has to leave. So basically the detectives kind of think that Miss Dawson is at fault. She thinks that Miss Dawson has something to do with it. A lot of ambiguity at this point because there's not many answers. Then Miss Dawson gets called in, and Bug Hall and Lindsay Lohan fight over whether Miss Dawson is guilty or not. One of them says, because I didn't write down who said it, but as much as I hate to say this, I think we should team up. So Lindsay and Bug don't have a great relationship at school, but they both have different insights to what's going on, and they both want to figure it out, so they decide to work together. She talks to Dad again. She compiles the facts, and she's like up late, like working on this and figuring it out. And so it sounds like detective work. And so he said, you need to compile the facts, and basically being a journalist is also being a bit of a detective. Then she walks in on her sister and is interested in her, quote, junk, unquote, but wants to use some of the stuff for detective work and asks her where she got it. And she said, the corner spy shop, which is basically a Brookstone. But then Brenda Song and Gabe walk into the spy shop, and Lindsay's like mad that they want to be a part of it. But Gabe has information of he lives across the street from Miss Dawson, so he's going to be of help. And you just want to hang out with your best friend. So they are invited to be a part of this investigation. They're going to divide and conquer. And so originally Lindsay's like, I want to go with Brenda. And Jack is like, yeah, I'll go with Gabe. But they have to go to Brooklyn because that's where Mr. Walker lives, because he lives by Jack. And she's trying to get out of it and blah, blah, blah. And it's because she's never ridden the subway before. So she's having a lot of fear having to go to Brooklyn. But Brenda's song couldn't go for some reason. And so Jack and Lindsay end up on their way to Brooklyn. And Brenda and Gabe get the camera set up at Dawson's, which in my head, I'm like, if this woman was a suspect of a murder, they would not be able to get this close to her house. Same thing with if in the future, if we get into Mr. Walker's house, how are they just allowed into these people's homes? No idea. And I wrote, why are we not talking about why Bug has a close relationship with Mr. Walker? Something that is really never really addressed fully. But to me, I was like, if he's so close to them and he was making really interesting comments about his relationship with Mr. Walker and like, yeah, I know where he lives and like, he's really going through it. And like, I don't know. It's just weird that we never got that final like, oh, well, I kind of see Mr. Walker as like a dad figure to me or something. Mm-hmm. We just don't get that resolution.
Yeah.
Then they're in Brooklyn and she sees a homeless guy wearing Mr. Walker's jacket. And she is very fashion forward this whole time because she's living in the Upper East Side and was like, no one else has that really ugly brown trench coat. And they get to Mr. Walker's house and the dean, Miss Stern, walks out. So very interesting. Why is she there? And the house is dun, 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 unlocked. There's a cat. They see a briefcase with the initials NP. And I wrote, if he was missing, there would be police here. Also, this man in his 30s sleeps on a twin bed. Very, very suspicious. Then they're snooping around the house trying to find clues, and Charles Shaughnessy shows up and scares Lindsay, and he says, I'm Detective Meanie. They have a conversation. Actually, before we get to that, because she screams and then we cut somewhere else to there is a man who comes over to Miss Dawson's house, and Gabe and Brenda Song are watching from like miles away or next door or
across
wherever,
the street at his
across
house.
the street on miles away across the street. They're watching on the camera. So this guy comes over and they're like, who is it? And it turns out to be Mr. Goldblum, who we saw for 1 second in the beginning of the movie, who was also a teacher. We don't know why he's there. We can't hear anything. We just see that he's there. Then Charles Shaughnessy says, I'm Detective Meanie, and she's really suspicious of him because of what he wears and what he owns. You can also kind of tell that, like, with him being there alone, something is fishy as an adult human being. You kind of are like, okay, I know where we're going with this. Then we find out so then they're like, okay, we have to go. She tells Bug that she's like, detectives do not make that much money. I know that watch is worth $40 million. And I know a detective doesn't make that. And so she's just like really suspicious. And they go to Bug's house because he lives a couple doors down. And she finds out that Bug is at the school on scholarship. He's one of a few people who goes to the Ridge School in the Upper East Side who lives in Brooklyn. And we meet his mom. We find out his brother is in the Navy. You can tell that like him and Lindsay Lohan are just two different people. And he tells her that he really likes bowling. So this is where we start to kind of like break the barriers of being enemies and start to become friends. And she's also asking a lot of questions. She's very curious. It's a super, super cute scene. And then they go onto his computer and they look up the detective database. And it says that Detective Meanie is a real person. But she's like, I don't know. I don't buy it. And then he checked his email And he was like, I have an email from Mr. Walker. And if he went missing, how is that possible? And he was like, oh, well, my computer that I own used to be owned by Mr. Walker. So once again, it's just like they're so close. We just don't get the resolution of like how or why. Nevertheless, we go to like the main menu of the computer and we find out that Nicholas Petruzian owned this computer. So in my head, I'm like, well, who did he steal the computer from? But it ended up being he changed his name. So hopefully not everyone is as dumb as I am. Then we look up Nicholas Petruzian and find that he had disappeared after being charged with fraud and embezzlement in Arizona. And they found the nearest Petruzian address, which ended up being his mom. So they go find Mrs. Petruzian's address and they are on their way. And this is when Lindsay Lohan kind of realizes that she likes hanging out with Jack. And Brenda Song calls her out and is like, girl, you like him. And Lindsay's like, no. And Brenda's like, sure. And then we get to them going to visit Mrs. Petruzian, and Mr. Walker is in the house and doesn't seem to be startled at all that these children have found him.
Or trying to hide from them.
So weird. But we love it. His mom is super adorable. She reminded me of, if you've ever seen 8 Crazy Nights, the like old lady in 8 Crazy Nights. I loved that. So then Mr. Petruzian, Mr. Walker, because he took his name was Orlando Walker that he had like adopted. We find out that he was framed. So basically worked for a bank and he closed an account worth $10 million. And the next day someone took it and put it under a fake put it under his name in a foreign account. So basically framed him to say he stole all this money and someone was stalking him and threatened him of stealing and that he was going to, turn him in. So he faked his death, Nicholas Petruzian, to get rid of the stalker. And he moved to New York and took the name Orlando Walker because they were a teacher. They died a year ago, took the name because it would just make sense of like in a teacher database or things like that. But then when he got to school, he fell in love with Miss Dawson until Lexi's article came out and the picture in the newspaper. He got a note that said his girlfriend would be killed if he didn't come to the hotel with the money. So Lexi's article did kind of spark all of this controversy, but the letter they can't tell what hotel it is that he needs to go to. So they go back to her spy sister and she national treasures the shit out of this piece of paper to figure out the hotel and what letters were missing because it got wet or something. And I wrote, I was honestly on board with the spy shit until this because it was just so very.
I thought it was cute.
I hated it. And then there's another article that comes out in the newspaper the next day that says that Mr. Walker is wanted by the police department because they found out that he is a fraud. And then they all changed into their black outfits. They looked so cool walking like spies in the lane. And then Miss Dawson is also at the hotel. So now they're at the hotel to go figure out who's stalking Mr. Walker to go catch this person. And Miss Dawson shows up and we're like, that's weird. But he can't say anything because he has to stay in hiding. And then Mr. Goldblum is there, which we're like, that was the guy who was in Miss Dawson's house. We're like, okay, why is he there? Then we see the homeless guy with the trench coat who is getting kicked out of the hotel. And we're like, okay, why is he there? And then Petruzian's mom shows up and we're like, okay, why is she there? Miss Stern shows up. I wrote, why is everyone here? Then Detective Meany shows up and it turns out that Detective Meany was his old boss in Arizona and he was the one who framed him. And Granville, the boss, knows that he doesn't have the money and flees because he's like, well, I'll get turned in if he captures me. And then everyone was running really weird through the hotel. We have just like a little montage montage of fleeing, very high knees. And then Granville is in the basement. Lexy and Bug Hall are down there. And Charles Shaughnessy kind of hits some sort of switch that looks like a fire alarm, but it's not. And it literally just says danger. And so then all of this like smoke is starting to come out and Lexy is stuck. And Jack saves her. Very flipped from Titanic when he's handcuffed, she was handcuffed, and he slaps it off. Then she kisses him on the cheek. Almost kissing if I've ever seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Then Miss Dawson, we find out, was at the hotel because she got a free day at the spa, but she was trapped. So she was like, had all of the stuff on, but then her hands were tied behind her back, and Lexy saves her. And that's where she's like, I hate to hose you down like this, because she just pushes her in the shower completely clothed
with her robot. Yeah.
Like
so weird.
Feet covered in wax, face covered in mask, just like so silly. And then we see the homeless man run into a big meeting in the hotel, and he was actually an undercover councilman wanting to have a firsthand view and look of what it's like to live in poverty. And very interesting that he pulls off his like beard and hair, and under it is just a suit. It was very funny. And there is a lot of like class differences mentioned throughout this.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is kind of starting to wrap up all of that. But we have this moment because he mentions that even though I was homeless, one of the best gestures I've gotten was this man giving me his jacket. And this jacket was my home because I didn't have one, that it became my shelter and it became like my life. And then that's when we see, as a journalist, Lexy's dad is there. So literally everyone's here. Yeah. And Lexy saw this part as well. And she was like, home as a jacket. I didn't even think of that. So this is a really big movie of like her realizing that like there are people who live a completely different world than her, which is, I wouldn't say clunky metaphor, but metaphor for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still running to try to catch this guy. They pretend to be the grandkids of Mrs. Petrusian at the high tea, and she puts on the Google glasses to like see behind her. And so they see that Granville is behind them because she's like wearing glasses, and the Google glasses are like reflective to see out of the corner of her eye. And so Bug Hall gets up and runs, and they are walking, of course, with a very large 7-tiered cake. And as you do. And he slides the cake into Granville as he's trying to escape. He gets knocked over. And now we have a mustacheless detective, because Lindsay Lohan had commented on how bad his mustache was. So he shaved it off because of Lindsay Lohan. Sure. Then we find out that Miss Stern liked Mr. Walker, but she found out that Dawson and Walker were together, and Goldblum, the guy who showed up at Miss Dawson's house, got turned down by Dawson. And so they ended up getting together. That's why they were both at the hotel. Then we have Granville's getting arrested, and Petrusian is about to get arrested too because he's still wanted for stealing this money. But he's like, I don't know where it went. And Lindsay Lohan is like, oh, Mrs. Petrusian, where did you get that really ugly, incredible brooch? And she was like, oh, when I went to go pick up my son from work at the bank, I bent over and found this brooch in a paper bag under my chair. And Lindsay Lohan, some reason, knows her diamonds and knows that this specific diamond is worth $10 million. The $10 million that was missing. And Granville bought it as a diamond to have it somewhere so that he could frame Mr. Petrusian. And so he admits to it, which would never happen in the moment, but he does. So Petrusian doesn't get arrested. Granville does. Then Lexy's article's in the paper again. Miss Dawson wants hers career day, and the police investigation ended. And then Dawson and Petrusian get married. He wears a top hat. There's not a lot of people there, but for some reason, half of the school is there. And throughout this, Lexy and Lindsay Lohan and Bug Hall have like developed their relationship. And at the very end, he had mentioned to her when they were at his house that he really likes bowling, and she bought him custom bowling shoes, which was so cute. Her love language is gifts, and then asks if they can go bowling together sometime. And Val, out of left field, we end with a narration.
There's been narration through the whole movie.
I didn't notice it at all until the end when I was like,
that Barney's quote was a narration from the
was
beginning.
it?
Yeah.
Boo.
I was surprised when you didn't bring it up earlier.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it until the end. I was like, we went this whole movie without it. I literally didn't even notice it.
That's so funny. Well, that's good, right? That means that they...
And that is get a clue.
I think I realized like why I didn't like this movie more, which is like the adults were meant to be like funny, and they weren't like at all.
Yeah.
Like the detective, like the real detective who has this ridiculous mustache. He's also like covered in coffee stains. Like they're all meant to be like cliches to the point where some of their names are literally things like Stern and Meanie. Like it's meant to be sort of silly like that, which doesn't fit with like these kids who are taking this really seriously. And it really is like life or death circumstances. And so it's like, it feels like some of these people are in a different movie. Like when you were talking about like that high knees running through the like hotel.
Yeah.
Like, I was literally watching that going, why is this here? Like, why is this happening right now? It doesn't fit the rest of this movie at all. And like, you're right that like they were trying to sort of like bring everyone together and like make this commentary on classism and all this stuff. But that whole thing, like with the councilman and the dad being there and all that stuff, that was the most unnecessary like aspect of this out of everything. Yeah. I would have been perfectly happy to just see them solve this crime. Right. And like, and also Charles Shaughnessy is the type of like villain who needs more to do. Like otherwise he's so outsized.
He was in
compared to and he's like such like a big presence. Like he like as they say, he chews on the furniture when he's in the scene, right? And like it doesn't fit with like the other people in these parts. Right. Like Mr. Walker is very kind of like down to earth and like just sort of like a normal person. And so it doesn't like make sense that like, you know, they're in the same movie. Right. So yeah, I think that like this movie was fun and like I would happily watch it again. Like it's not like I like hated it or anything, but I just think that they missed some opportunities to sort of like make it make a little bit more sense and be like more consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, did you want to tell us the fun fact?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the this is literally exactly what IMDb says. A well-concealed reshoot took place in late 2001 to film a different ending, concluding that the villain in the film was Meanie. In the original ending, the villain turned out to be Mrs. Stern, the teacher from Lexy's school who had known Mr. Walker while he was living in Arizona.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't totally understand how that would work because, like, he worked with her every day. Like, how would he not? Like, how did that make sense?
Yeah,
but it's bizarre to me that
maybe that's why they changed it.
Yeah, maybe it's just funny that they like filmed a whole movie and then we're like, no, we need to reshoot this decom. And it means that they would have had to film like some of those big set piece scenes again, which is interesting. So
maybe that's why Charles Shaughnessy is only in 2 scenes.
Yeah, because he wasn't originally meant to be. Like, he was probably meant to be like an actual just like detective. And then they were like, actually come back and be the villain. So
weird.
Interesting. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Welcome to bingo.
Woo!
Okay, I'm going to start.
Wait, I'm wearing my bingo shirt.
I got bingo at
Decounters bar mitzvah.
Beep. One hit wonder song. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Get a
Prozzak
clue.
/ Milo notice or whatever they're
Prozzak. Yep.
Okay. Breaking the fourth wall or looking into the camera. I didn't see anything.
I didn't see any either.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Holiday themed? Nope.
Nope.
Sad.
Clunky metaphor.
I think it was a very in-your-face metaphor, but does that qualify as clunky?
No, I mean the themes were in your face. Like the metaphor would have been like if, like literally like Jack and like the teacher lived downstairs and they lived upstairs. You know what I mean? Like if it was like a physical representation of like their classes or something. I'm trying to think of like if there was something like that in this movie, but I don't think so.
Nope. Parents who just don't get it.
No.
Not really, because Dad kind of gets it.
Mm-hmm. All the parents in this movie, even if they were only on screen for 2 seconds, because we always put the mom away in all of these movies for some reason, they seemed cool. Cool non-parent adult.
Yeah, there was a few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Someone too famous for a TV movie.
Did we count Charles Shaughnessy last time?
I think so.
Okay.
Because he had already had nanny fame at this point.
Yeah. And also Lindsay Lohan.
She was
had already
big,
done Parent Trap and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Competition to resolve the central problem. No, not this time. And I would like to acknowledge that we had some fans who were upset about the results last episode. We're not changing them, but I wanted to acknowledge you, and I hear you, and I still disagree with you.
Wow.
Respectfully.
I hear some disrespect in that tone. Oh. I'm just kidding. A montage sequence. Yeah.
Yep.
Always. It's a decom. I mean, how many times have we not had one?
Never, maybe?
Yeah.
Cliche villain. Yeah. Beauty banker.
Yeah.
Who's also a weird fake detective.
Mm-hmm. Clothes or items you owned.
Okay.
Val has a whole list.
Okay. I had the same Nokia phone. It was the same one again that she had.
Nice.
She had those like bead bracelets. You know what I'm talking about with like the circle, like the spherical beads.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yep. I had those.
Wow.
The VTech has made another appearance. That cordless phone that was right next to her bed.
Decoms are obsessed.
I know. Later, she's wearing silk pajamas, which I have referenced before in previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I had a nice dad.
I love that. I love that a lot.
In her sister's room, she has one of those pencil boxes that has like those little like dots on the top. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like plastic. It's color on the top.
I had that too.
Yeah, I had one of those.
Where you pour glue on the top and then you make a bookmark.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Exactly. At one point the sister's wearing like a polo with like a zip up over it, and I was like, I wore that exact outfit before. Yeah. Okay, this is what I was just looking for a second ago. That I could not find. I had sunglasses that had mirrors on the side that you could see behind you. Yes, I had those. They weren't like computers, but they were just mirrors. Like it was like having like a rear view mirror. Yeah, and I thought I still had them. Maybe I do, but I couldn't find them. And then she has at school. She has a binder that is like color, like red on the edge, like on the binding, and then like translucent white on like the cover in the back. And I had that exact
very
binder.
2000s.
Yes, very 2000s. She has like a bunch of like Trapper Keepers and stuff that all are like, I had some version of that. I
just recently found out what a Trapper Keeper is.
Wow.
Val and I were at rehearsal for the show we do together, Comedy Sports, and I did not know what a Trapper Keeper was.
Oh, yeah.
I do know what it is, but I would have called it a binder. Like, I didn't realize it had another name.
Right.
And I also had one as a child.
It's sort of like calling a tissue Kleenex.
Yeah.
Like Trapper Keeper was the brand that everyone had at the time.
Yeah, had no idea. The only thing that I had was she had a pair of purple glasses that had a studded heart in the bottom. And I did have a pair of those.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You were so fashionable.
I was so fashionable. The people, they were obsessed.
As they should have been. Okay, so needless to say, I think we get to check this off.
We do, yeah. Many an X in that box.
Rotten Tomatoes 40 to 60. Okay. This one is probably going to be higher. I'm going to go exactly 60.
42.
What?
Mm-hmm. They didn't like it.
40. So we get the box.
We do.
I just don't get my pride.
Boo. Okay, our next box is Happily Ever After.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Bowling shoes and all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost kissing. Yep.
Yeah.
Almost got the lips. Almost.
Almost lips.
And the teacher's kiss too.
Oh yeah. Someone who became famous.
Yeah, I mean, if we can't count Lindsay Lohan, like
For both boxes, we'll count Brenda.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. Betraying of one's real friends or values. No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I think she's actually very true to her values.
Yeah. Your childhood crush.
I definitely thought he was cute.
Yes.
Obviously bad special effects or stunts. I didn't notice anything.
There wasn't too many crazy stunts or anything.
No. I mean, I'm like 99% sure that the person who got hit with the cake was not Charles Shaughnessy.
Right.
But like, it wasn't so obvious where I was like, who's that?
Boo,
yeah. Person who doesn't look anything like him.
Right.
Yeah. I would say no.
Okay. Our Disney Channel star box.
Yes.
Brenda Song.
Yes, Brenda Song.
Because I don't think that Lindsay Lohan is a Disney Channel star, but Brenda Song is due to Sweet Life and all of the movies that she was in.
Correct. She was in a lot of DCOMs, so definitely counts. Okay, musical number. No.
Nope. Magic?
No.
Spy Magic.
Right. Like, unless you count what the little sister did with that letter.
Yeah.
Someone says the title of the movie. Yes. Multiple times.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good chunk.
Mm-hmm.
Scooby-Doo.
Oh, yeah.
Super Scooby-Doo in this one.
This might be like the most Scooby-Doo of any Scooby-Doo.
Right. Because the children figured it out when the police could not.
And it's literally like, those darn kids. Like, literally the bad guy getting like unmasked.
Yeah.
Yep. The heroes create the problem. Yes.
Yeah. I certainly had no initially, but it is her fault because of the article.
Right. She didn't have ill intentions, but she definitely caused the chain of events.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Lead is a fish out of water. I would argue that she is a bit when she's in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Nice. Okay, Val. Get a clue. Get a 2. We got 2 bingos. Yay.
Yay.
Our bingos that we got today were the third row down. Closer items you owned. Rotten Tomatoes, 40 to 60. Happily Ever After, Almost Kissing, and Someone Who Became Famous. And our diagonal from the top left to bottom right, we've One Hit Wonder songs, Someone Too Famous for a TV Movie, Happily Ever After, DCOM Starbox, and Lead is a Fish Out of Water. We did it. Get a 2. Great. And then we are gonna, as we always do, another little game. I said, Val, you're gonna love this game because earlier I foreshadowed for everyone in this game called Get a Clue, where Val and I are gonna give each other movies. And we're going to have to sing, we're going to have to create and sing a theme song for the movie. The stipulations are it has to be a movie that does not already have one.
Okay.
So if it was, something else, great. Okay.
Do we have to have seen the movie?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be a long song. You just have to make a song. Also, there's no time limit on this. So if it takes us 5 minutes, it takes us 7, whatever. So.
Yeah, I'm just going to do it like off the cuff. Are we supposed to write it?
If you want, or we can improvise.
I want to see what happens if we improvise.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm making you go first.
Okay. You're making me make up a song verse.
Yes. Make up a theme song that would play at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
I already have mine for you.
Okay.
And I just thought about it right now. I wasn't preemptively thinking about it.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Val, your movie is Jurassic Park.
Okay. I have to try not to sing the Get a Clue song.
Yep. Jurassic Park.
There's dinosaurs everywhere.
Okay.
Okay. Do you hear the pounding? Do you hear the pounding? It's a T-Rex. It's a T-Rex. And Jeff Goldblum told us all that's what would happen. Should I do more?
No, that was perfect. I just wasn't sure if you were done. I didn't want to cut you off. And then you're like, there's a second verse. Beautiful.
Okay.
This is great because I have had to have seen the movie, which means you can't give me a Star Wars.
Right. Okay. Since this TV show is coming out, I don't know if you've seen this movie. Have you seen A League of Their Own?
Yeah.
Okay. I give you A League of Their Own.
Okay. In honor of the TV show coming out.
In honor of the TV show.
And in honor of me actually having seen this movie.
Yes. And in honor of me loving this movie a lot.
Okay. There's no crying in baseball. And we are a team one and all. Women playing baseball.
Yay! Folks, if you'd like to see more improv like that, come to a comedy sports show any Friday or Saturday. Well, that was great, Al.
Thanks. That was great, Val. Like and subscribe to D Commentary's Instagram, Val's Instagram, and my Instagram.
Yeah. We both have Instagrams.
We do. We also have a TikTok.
We do.
And write us a 5-star review.
Yeah. For
Val,
real,
when was the last time we had a 5-star review?
The last review we received was almost a year ago. It was August 8th, 2021 on Apple.
Wow. If you leave us a review and screenshot it and send it to us on Instagram, we'll shout you out.
Yeah, we will.
At our next episode.
Yep. And we can't track this, but you can also give us 5 stars on Spotify.
Yes.
Which would be delightful.
Huge.
Huge.
Val, always a pleasure.
Always.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. This was great.
Bye, Val.
Bye, Al. This podcast was produced by me.
And me.
And it was edited by me.
The music was composed by Michael McNally.
You can find us online at thetridentnetwork.com/dcommentaries-pod.
And you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at dcommentaries.
D-Commentaries is a part of the Trident Network. To learn more about our videos, live shows, and other podcasts, please visit thetridentnetwork.com.
Disney Channel original movies.
Damn it, Allie.